Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. Now, you might know him as the other guy who invented calculus, or maybe you've heard the phrase, the best of all possible worlds. But really, the man was a true universal genius, a philosopher, mathematician, physicist, diplomat, you name it. Today, we're going to unpack the incredible ideas of this mind, from a calculator made of brass and gears all the way to the source code of the universe itself. Let's dive in.
And we're starting with this quote because honestly, it just captures Leibniz perfectly. On one hand, yeah, you've got this high-minded philosopher talking about the dignity of excellent men. But on the other hand, you have this super practical, forward-thinking inventor who believed technology should free up our brain power for bigger things. He didn't just want to think, you see. He wanted to build.
So, let's start with one of his most famous builds. This is the story of how a machine turned pure abstract math into real, physical, clanking motion.
Okay, so this is the stepped reckoner. Before Leibniz, calculating machines were, well, they were basically just glorified adding machines. But his invention, which he started designing back in the 1670s, was a huge leap forward. It was the very first device that could handle all four basic operations of arithmetic. I mean, for its time, this was an absolute game changer.
You know, the real genius here is how elegant the logic is. So let's say you wanted to multiply 123 by 32. You'd set the input dials to 1, 2, 3. Then you'd set the multiplier dial to 2, and you just turn the crank twice. The machine literally just adds 123 to itself 2 times. That's it. Then, and this is the cool part, you physically slide the whole mechanism over one spot, which is like moving a decimal place. You set the dial to 3, crank it 3 times, and bam! It's just long multiplication, but made physical, repeatable, and pretty much foolproof.
So this ability to break down a really complex problem into simple, logical, repeatable steps, that wasn't just for building machines. Leibniz saw the entire universe this way. He believed that, just like his calculator, reality itself was built on a kind of fundamental logic. So let's jump from his physical machine to his metaphysical one.
For Leibniz, the universe wasn't just a bunch of random chaos. Nope. He thought it was built on a clear source code, 2 core principles that basically govern everything that has ever happened, is happening, or ever will happen. First step, we've got the predicate in notion principle. And you got to wrap your head around this one because it's a big deal. It says that the complete concept of you, your essential identity, already contains every single fact about you. Not just, is a human or has brown hair, but everything you have ever done and everything you ever will do. It's all baked into the very definition of who you are.
So what does this actually mean? Well, it means that for a mind that could see everything, the concept of Alexander the Great isn't just a name. It's a full blueprint that includes the fact that he's going to conquer Darius and that he's going to die of a fever in Babylon. His entire life story is embedded in his identity from the very start.
And the second main principle is the principle of sufficient reason. To put it simply, stuff doesn't just happen. There's always a reason, a rational explanation for why something is the way it is and not some other way. For Leibniz, the universe is fundamentally understandable. Nothing is arbitrary. There's a why for everything, even if we can't always figure it out.
Okay, so if you take those 2 big ideas, that everything about you is in your concept and that everything has a reason, and you follow them all the way down the rabbit hole, well, you end up with one of the most unique and, frankly, mind-bending views of reality ever put to paper.
Leibniz called the basic building blocks of reality individual substances. You can think of a substance as a soul, or the essential you-ness of you. And because of that predicate in notion principle we just talked about, each substance is basically a self-contained universe. Its complete concept is like a pre-written script containing every single moment of its entire existence.
And here's where it gets really, really wild. Let this one sink in. If every substance's story is already written inside of it, then they don't actually interact with each other at all. So when you and I have a conversation, my speaking isn't causing you to hear me. Instead, my internal script was pre-programmed from the beginning of time to say these words at the exact moment your internal script was pre-programmed to hear them. It's like we're 2 separate movies, just unfolding perfectly in sync. It's a wild thought, right? But this doesn't mean we're all just isolated islands. And this quote shows the flip side. Even though substances are causally independent, Leibniz actually called them windowless. Each one is also a perfect mirror of the entire universe, reflecting everything else that's happening, just from its own unique point of view.
So how does this all work? Well, this perfect synchronization is what Leibniz called pre-established harmony. The idea is that God, as this sort of ultimate composer, created every single substance in such a way that their pre-programmed lives would unfold in perfect harmony with one another, forever. We only seem to be interacting. In reality, we're all just playing our parts in a massive cosmic symphony that was written at the dawn of time.
And this whole idea of a divinely ordered, perfectly rational universe leads us right to Leibniz's most famous and definitely most controversial idea. It's his attempt to solve one of the oldest, toughest problems in all of theology.
You know the one. It's the problem of evil. If God is all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-good, why on earth did he create a world that has so much pain, suffering, and just plain cruelty in it? It's a question that has kept people up at night for thousands of years.
Leibniz's answer is just a masterclass in logic. He argues that God, in his infinite mind, could see every single possible universe that could ever exist. Since God is perfectly good, he was basically required to create the best one. But, and this is the whole key to his argument, best doesn't mean happiest or most comfortable. For Leibniz, the best world is the one that produces the absolute maximum amount of richness, complexity, and diversity, all from the simplest and most elegant set of rules. So evil and suffering in this view are tragic, yes, but they're necessary parts of a system that, as a whole, is the most perfect one that could possibly exist.
This quote really nails his thinking. For God to have created any other world, one that might have had less suffering but was also less rich and complex, would have actually been an imperfect act for God himself. He chose this one because, in its grand cosmic design, it was the absolute optimal arrangement.
So when you put it all together, what's the lasting impact of this incredible system of thought? Let's take a look at his legacy.
Well, at a time when the scientific revolution seemed to be splitting the world in two, you had the new mechanical physics on one side and the older purpose-driven philosophy on the other. Leibniz just refused to pick a team. He argued we need both. We need to know how things work mechanically, but we also need to understand the why, the ultimate purpose, to get the full picture of reality.
His whole philosophy was this incredibly grand, optimistic project to bring everything together. He wanted to build one single unified system where the truths of science, the logic of philosophy, and the principles of faith could all exist in a kind of, well, a pre-established harmony, just like the substances in his universe.
And the man's output was just staggering. You can see his ideas building on each other right here. He starts with something tangible, his calculator, in 1673. Then he lays out the deep philosophical groundwork. After that, he tackles the biggest theological questions head-on. And finally, he pulls it all into one dense, powerful little book. It was literally a lifetime spent building this incredible intellectual system.
And so we end here. Leibniz built this vision of a universe with breathtaking logical perfection, a world where everything mirrors everything else, all unfolding according to a divine plan. But it leaves us with this huge, lingering question. If your entire life story is already contained within your very essence, if it was all part of the blueprint from the beginning, where in all of that do you find your freedom? And that's a question his ideas still force us to wrestle with today.